Rumination Loop. The conversation ended hours ago, maybe days ago, and yet here you are, back inside it, replaying the sequence of it, the words, the pauses, the moment where something shifted. You've been through it enough times that you can no longer be certain the version in your head matches what actually happened. Details have been sharpened, meanings have been deepened. The original exchange, which lasted perhaps 10 minutes, has been extended by the replay into something considerably longer and considerably worse. The rumination loop is the recursive replaying of a past social exchange without movement toward resolution. What keeps the loop running is the unanswerable question at its center. What did they really mean? What do they think of me now? Did I handle it right? These questions cannot be answered from inside your own head. They require the other person, who is not available for the internal replay. So the mind runs the sequence again, looking for the answer in the material it already has, which doesn't contain it. The loop is not processing, it's the appearance of processing. The exit is either the real conversation, taken back to the actual person, or the decision to accept that some questions don't have answers you can reach alone. Retroactive anxiety. The event is over. It went fine, or at least well enough. There's no immediate crisis, no obvious problem, and then, at some point after, the anxiety arrives. Not about something coming, about something that has already passed. A meeting from this morning, a conversation from last week that you were perfectly calm during and are now inexplicably anxious about. The danger, if there ever was one, has already either happened or not happened. The anxiety arrives after the fact. Retroactive anxiety is the experience of threat response activation in relation to events that are already complete. For some people, in some situations, the stress response is delayed. It fires after the event when the conscious mind has moved on, but the nervous system has finally caught up with the social evaluation that was required. The uselessness of it is genuinely maddening. There's nothing to do with retroactive anxiety. The situation cannot be improved. The performance cannot be adjusted. The outcome is already determined. The anxiety is running a drill for a fire that either already happened or already didn't, and it runs it anyway, with full commitment, regardless of how little difference it makes. L'esprit de l'escalier. You are in a conversation, or an argument, or a moment where something needs to be said, and the right response doesn't come. You say something adequate, or nothing at all, and the moment passes. And then, later, usually on the way home, or in the shower, or lying in bed, it arrives. The perfect thing. The exact response that would have landed precisely right, fully formed, completely useless, because the conversation is over, and the moment is gone. The French call this l'esprit de l'escalier, literally, the spirit of the staircase. The name comes from the image of a person leaving a dinner party and thinking, on the stairs on the way out, of the brilliant reply they should have made at the table. The philosopher Denis Diderot coined the term in 1773. The delay has a neurological explanation. In the heat of a charged social moment, the brain is managing multiple competing demands simultaneously. Under that load, the more creative and nuanced formulations are slower to arrive. The moment passes, the load reduces, and in the reduced load, the better answer surfaces, finding no one left to receive it. The stairs are where you go afterward, alone, to be brilliant at the right time. Social threat reassessment. The conversation is over and you are running a review. Not consciously, exactly. More like a background process that you notice is running when you catch yourself back inside a specific exchange for the third time. You are looking for something. The moment when the tone shifted. The word that landed slightly wrong. The silence that lasted a beat too long. The expression you couldn't quite read. Social threat reassessment is the post hoc evaluation of recent social interactions for evidence of rejection or negative judgment. The system didn't get everything it needed during the event. The ambiguities weren't resolved. And so it keeps processing, running the recording back, looking for the frame it might have missed. The problem with reassessment as a strategy is the quality of the material it has to work with. Memory of social events is not a recording, it's a reconstruction, subject to the biases of the emotional state in which the reassessment is taking place. If you are anxious during the review, you will find more evidence of threat than was present in the original event. The reassessment doesn't just evaluate the evidence, it shapes it. Shame re-exposure. There's a moment in the conversation that you keep returning to. Not the whole conversation. One moment. A thing you said, or the way you said it, or a reaction you had that you wish you hadn't. And every time you return to it, you feel it again. Not a faded version. The original. The heat, the contraction. The wish to not have been there. To have been different in that specific second. The moment plays. The shame arrives. Every time. Shame re-exposure is the repeated reactivation of the original shame response through replay. Unlike guilt, which motivates repair, shame tends to produce avoidance. But the paradox of shame is that the thing you most want to avoid is the thing you keep returning to. The shame memory is vivid, emotionally charged, and unresolved. And unresolved emotional memories surface repeatedly, looking for the processing they didn't receive the first time. Shame heals through connection, through empathy, through the experience of being known in your worst moment and still being accepted. The replay cannot provide any of those things. It can only reactivate the feeling in isolation. The harshest audience in any shame re-exposure is almost always the one watching from the inside, the one that never looks away. Unresolved conflict loop. Something was left unfinished, not necessarily a dramatic confrontation. It might have been something small, a conversation that ended before it was complete, a disagreement that got suspended rather than resolved, a thing that was said that was never properly addressed, and it sits there, in the background of your days, occasionally surfacing. You find yourself rehearsing what you'd say if you could continue it, a conversation that exists entirely in your imagination and never actually concludes. The unresolved conflict loop is the mind's attempt to complete something that real life left open. The Zygarnik effect, identified by the psychologist Bluma Zygarnik in 1927, describes the tendency for uncompleted tasks to occupy working memory more persistently than completed ones. Conflict is, in psychological terms, an uncompleted task. The mind keeps it accessible, keeps returning to it, because it is in a state the system registers as unfinished. The loop runs until one of two things happens. The real conversation takes place, with all the uncertainty that entails, or the mind is persuaded that completion is not coming, and that it is possible, eventually, to carry something unresolved without it requiring constant tending. Neither is quick. Both are better than the loop. Approval hunger. You replay the conversation, not because something went wrong, because you're not sure it went right. There's no specific incident, no clear moment of damage, just the absence of the signal you were looking for. Did they like me? Did I come across the way I wanted to? Was I interesting? Was I enough? Did they leave thinking well of me? You replay it looking for evidence of approval, and you can't find it, because you're not sure it was there. Approval hunger is the persistent need for positive evaluation from others, intense enough to produce ongoing monitoring of past interactions for evidence of whether that evaluation was provided. The replaying is the checking. The mind going back through the evidence, looking for the reassurance that the interaction didn't cost anything, that the approval that matters is still intact. The reassurance the replay is looking for cannot be found in the replay. It was never going to be found there. It's found, slowly and imperfectly, in the accumulated experience of being present in relationships that don't require you to keep checking whether you're still allowed in them. The unsaid thing. There's something you didn't say. You had the opportunity and didn't take it. Or the moment passed before you recognized it. Or something in you closed at the critical second, and the thing stayed inside. And now the conversation is over, and the thing is still there. Not diminished by the passage of time. If anything, more present. Because now it exists in the gap between what was said and what was true. The unsaid thing is different from l'esprit de l'escalier. It's not the clever reply that arrived too late. It's the true thing. The feeling. It's the need. The honest response that would have required actual vulnerability to say. The reason it went unsaid is almost never the absence of words. What was absent in the moment was the confidence that saying it would produce an outcome it could bear. The unsaid things accumulate. In relationships over time, they build into a structure of withheld truth that shapes everything built above it. The replay keeps returning to them, not out of masochism, but out of a quiet, persistent awareness that the conversation is not finished, and that until it is, the version of the relationship that exists in the world and the version that exists in your interior are not quite the same thing. Comment your thoughts and subscribe if you like this.